Hello, and you're all very welcome along to Season 5, Episode 15 of the Champ.ie podcast, Ireland's premier horse racing podcast in association with Boylesports, Gowran Park Racecourse and Syndicates Racing. Coming up on this week's show, Barry speaks to special guest GAVIN Sheehan about his big win in the King George aboard Hewick and his book of rides this weekend, and the lads look ahead to 5 key races at Naas and Sandown, as well as giving their best bets for this weekend.
Allaho left clear, Hewick running on in third place, it's closing fast on the front two. Allaho brave man's game, but Hewick on the outside is delivering a challenge, and Hewick right from the outer, from last to first, seizes the King George for GAVIN Sheehan and Shark Hanlon.
If you haven't already, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the Champ.ie YouTube channel, as it helps to get our horse racing content out there to the wider audience. We look forward to reading all your weekend #5cast selections in the comments below. Sit back, relax and enjoy the show.
Boylesports. Don't just bet, choose wisely.
Hello, and you're all very welcome along to the first show of 2024. And firstly, before we go any further, a happy new year to you all, and hopefully you had a very, very good Christmas and you followed in Mr. Ronan Groome on Caldwell Potter and Barry Doyle and Lucia, which were 20-1 and 10-1 on when we recorded. So if you did get a few pound off those, very, very well done to you. Well, coming up on the first show of 2024, we're looking ahead to 5 races, which will include action at Sandown on Saturday and Naas on Sunday. And don't forget, of course, we're proudly... the show proudly brought to you in association with Boylesports, Gowran Park Racecourse and Syndicates Racing. And of course, we've so much to get through, including we want you to get your 5cast selections in for those 5 big races that we're going to look at this weekend, which is the 150 at Sandown on Saturday, that handicap chase, the Mayor's Hurdle, the listed contest at 2:25. We've got the Veterans Chase at Sandown at 3 o'clock. The handicap hurdle at 3:37, and the LAWLOR'S of NAAS novices hurdle, the grade 1 at 2 o'clock on Sunday. And don't forget as well, a very, very special guest will be joining us, and that is GAVIN Sheehan. What a Christmas he has just had. Of course, that big victory on Hewick on St. Stephen's Day, Boxing Day on Hewick. It was a brilliant performance. So really, we're just going to get right into it. So, gentlemen, Ronan and Barry, Happy New Year to you guys. And great, I suppose, before we go on with what we're looking ahead to, it was a superb week of racing over the Christmas period, and we saw some stellar performances.
Yeah, absolutely, David. And probably, well, Hewick, we're going to speak about GAVIN Sheehan. I'm sure he'll be looking to get himself down to the point depot if Hewick is to go on and progress and maybe land the big pots, the likes of the Gold Cup or the Grand National, I'm sure. On good ground, he certainly wouldn't be out of the picture in either of those races. But in terms of the performance of Christmas, I think it was galloping the Champ. And I think it was arguably, David, I'm not sure whether you agree, a career best effort.
It was superb. I really was impressed by him. He bounced back to his very best, galloping the Champ. And Ronan, after that performance, he really now is, I think, the standout horse for the feature in March, the Gold Cup.
Absolutely, David. I'd say Barry was doing a lot of straw clutching here earlier in the week, trying to suggest that the race might have taken a bit out of him. I'm not sure about that now, to be honest with you. And I think Willie will probably save him now for Cheltenham, and he'll put up the old drawbridge, get him back, give him a few weeks off, and then just build him up nicely. And he if he's anywhere near that, I'd say if he's within 6-7 pounds of that, even at Cheltenham, he'd be very hard to beat. And yeah, it was a sensational performance. It was great to be there. I was there on the day, and you could feel the buzz around the place, and there was a real appreciation. Leopardstown's like that for some reason. You can get a real appreciation. You can feel the appreciation from the people there who go down around the winners' enclosure, and he definitely was appreciated on the day.
Yeah, I wonder what price Jerry Calam for the Welsh National off top weight this time next year. Any prices going, David, with our sponsors, Boylesports?
We'll get them, of course. The slow boat that you described him as before Christmas, and well, some will say you're right, and some will still be on the fence. I suppose this weekend, guys, we're very much fingers crossed that Sandown gets the green light on Saturday, Weather's playing a huge part in the racing action across the water this week, as we've seen in some of the pictures coming in from some of the racecourses submerged in water. We hope that's not the case this weekend. But Ronan, if I can come to you first, what are you most looking forward to this weekend?
I like the old veterans chase, I say, David. It's always a nice race on Sunday. Always get a popular winner there, and I think I might have a nice option there. So when we get on to that, and obviously go down to Naas on Sunday as well, and the LAWLOR'S of Naas novice hurdle looks a real cracker, especially if a good portion of these actually show up. Looking forward to seeing Firefox again and Ile Atlantique. So they're closely matched on a bumper form last season, and Ile Atlantique shouldn't be slept on. He beat a good maiden hurdle field by about 19 lengths, and the form of that race has worked out quite well. So I'm sure we'll get on to that, but it does look a real cracker.
It really does. And I suppose before we move on, we had that fantastic prize to give away, of course, before Christmas. And that, of course, is a trip to the Thyestes Day down in Gowran Park on the 25th of January, and an overnight stay in Langton's Hotel in Kilkenny. And Paddy Pacer, well done to you, our Paddy Pacer, on our Twitter account. You have won yourself that overnight stay in Langton's Hotel, and you are off to the Thyestes Chase, which we will, of course, be building up to over the coming weeks. So we really are looking forward to that. So we've kind of had a look back at Christmas. We've had a look ahead to this weekend. So why don't we get right in to the thick of the action? And of course, once again, those 5 races we're going to look at. We're going to start off first with the first race we're going to look at is the Class 2 handicap chase over 2.5 miles. This contest, 150 at Saturday. Ronan, I'll come to you first. What do you like here?
I really like one, Dave, but I'm not sure he's going to run. It's the Venetia Beast here, George's Saint. But the first preference is for Wincanton. They have the system over in Britain, of course, where if you're double entered, you have to state what your first preference is. So he seems to be, your connections there seem to run him there. I would have thought this would be perfect for him, the way Sandown is lining up. But maybe, I suppose, Sandown mightn't even get the go-ahead. So maybe that's what they're thinking. But he was a real strong stayer the last day. He's only a couple of starts over fences for Venetia. Looks really progressive. I thought if he did end up here, he'd end up favourite, even above Hudson de Grugy, who you can see the case where he's a course and distance winner, and he was third on a seasonal debut, bound to come on for that. And you can see why he's in favourite. If I was to nominate one against him, I would go for the Evan Williams horse, Carbon King. He got his act together for his new stable there the last day. He won nicely, beat a horse called Fine Casting, who didn't disgrace himself on New Year's Day at Cheltenham. That was a good run from him, so kind of held up that form. He's only 3 starts over fences. He came from the Declan Quealy yard in Ireland. We like the Irish form going over to Britain usually, and he won 3 times over hurdles, and he beat By Your Side, Gordon Elliott's By Your Side at Navan, which is a pretty good a barometer of form, I suppose, over hurdles. Look, he's no world beater, I'd say, but as I said, he's only 3 starts over fences. The form of his win has worked out quite well, so I'd opt for him in the absence of Georgia Saint. But if Georgia Saint did run here, I do think he's a good strong bet. I think he's in around the 5-1 mark there. I would have thought he'd be closer to favourite. And
Barry, for you, what do you like in this one?
Well, it's absolutely snap, and whether a Venetia's horse runs or not, I'm 100% with this Carbon King as well. And Rona mentioned the form behind By Your Side. Look back a start previous where it ran into Buddy One, a trounced Buddy One, who was running off a rating of 109 on that occasion at Limerick. That was back at the beginning of 2023. And he's since improved about 40 plus pounds. I think 45 pounds or so. Obviously, we know what Buddy One has come on to do. And I'd say the wise guy's horse in here now would be Hudson de Grugy. It's currently favoured. It's 11-4, 10 pounds lower than its mark over the smaller obstacles. So could potentially be well treated. It won in a higher class race off this exact same mark back in March time. So I'd say that's going to be on plenty of people's list. But looking back at his run the last day at Sandown, I wasn't too impressed with the way he run. I thought he jumped a little bit out to his left as well, which won't suit at Sandown. He's a hold-up performer. Sometimes you need a horse that's going to be able to jump and travel. I think that's probably the main asset you need at Sandown. And Carbon King, I thought he was very, very good. And just his third start, as Rona mentioned, after joining Evan Williams from the Declan Quealy yard. So I thought there was a lot of upside with him. And he's only had 3 chase starts. So he's very likely raced individual. He's only a 7-year-old. He's open to more improvement. And he's a nice weight on his back as well, 10 stone 11. For me, he was one of the better bets of the weekend. And again, you look back to the form at the start of January with Buddy 1. And I think that's really, really strong over hurdles. He's a better chaser. I like the way he jumped and travelled last time.
Yeah, it looks to be a real solid chance in that race as well. And don't forget, viewers, as well, to like and subscribe to the channel here at Champ.ie. And we want you to get your 5 selections in as well on those 5 races that we have up on your screens. Barry, I'm looking forward to hearing Gavin Sheehan later on. It was a momentous Christmas for him, to win these grade 1s. It's so hard, and we know how difficult it is for jockeys. He got a brilliant opportunity, of course, in getting the ride on Hewick, who, dramatically won the King George. A superb performance. And of course, you've been speaking to him. What does he make of his chances, of course, in the second of the races we're going to look forward to, the listed contest at Sandown, the 225?
Yeah, just to paint a picture, obviously Love Envoy was very impressive in the race last year, David. And this is very much A versus B. And it depends which way you want to go for the 5 because it's race number 2. But You Wear It Well is the horse in question. Jamie Snow, the Mayor's Novice hurdle winner from last year. And speaking to Gavin, he just didn't feel, even on the way down to the start of the race, last time out, where it was racing over a shorter trip, over 2 miles on its second start of the season, You Wear It Well, he felt as though she just didn't feel herself. And now she's absolutely bouncing. So she's in really good form. We'll hear the full interview with Gavin. It was great to catch up with him. Second time on the Champ.ie podcast. We spoke to him, I think it was nearly 3 seasons ago now, when he was making hay on the likes of horses like, Simply the Bets, for example, St. Calvados. But obviously this year it's second to none, the performance of Gavin and some of the big Saturday winners he's getting in particular. Obviously Hewick and the King George, Datsalrightgino, and one of Ronan's favourite horses, Fugitif, tipped up on the show. I think it was at 8-1 a couple of weeks ago. So I think she takes the world of beating here. We obviously napped Nurse Susan. She was having her second run back since a long absence last time. First run back over hurdles. She looked well treated. I think it's a big ask, even though she is getting £4 off You Wear It Well, who is a course and distance winner. She's stepping up in trip. She's in good form, as we'll hear from Gavin. I think she has to be going into the 5 here, David. And I think she's a dark horse for the festival, for that Mayor's Novice, or for the Mayor's Hurdle, over 2.5 miles.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one, but the 2 of these at the top of the market, You Wear It Well, looks to have an outstanding chance, Ronan. And just briefly, because you could look elsewhere, but it really does look to be kind of an A or B scenario in that listed contest between the top 2 in the market, you'd feel.
Yeah, it is. I'd say Nurse Susan has a good bit now to get up to You Wear It Well standard. For all that she did it well the last day, she's lightly raced as well, and obviously she was fourth in Love Envoy's Mayor's Novice back, whenever that was, 2-3 seasons ago now. And look, she is interesting going forward. I just think the jump that she has to make to get up to You Wear It Well is significant here at this stage of her career. And I suppose the key with You Wear It Well is maybe getting a free lead, like she has done previously. She just kind of disputed it a bit at Sandown last day. Maybe just got done for a turn of pace there. And there's no disgrace in that. For all that, Not So Sleepy is no world beater, but he's pretty good over 2 miles. And Love Envoy as well. So I think this is a much more straightforward affair for her, and it's hard to see her not get her head back in front.
Right, before we go to our first ad break of the show, of course, Barry, plenty of support from our sponsors on Champ.ie, Gowran Park, Boylesports, and Syndicates Racing. And it's great to have the 3 involved with us for this season's Champ.ie podcast.
Certainly is, and it's hard to believe we're in January already. So it is Thyestes month. We're going to be building up. Of course, the launch is next week. We'll have entries in very, very shortly as well. The 25th, David, myself and yourself will be down there. The Golden Groome, I think, is off skiing that day, so we'll have to wait until Red Mill's Day for his services. But we can't wait. Look, it's going to be a fantastic day and night, I'd imagine. And once again, a big congratulations to our winner of that race and stay package, Paddy Pacer, over on Twitter. It was great. It's great to give that sort of prize away. And in terms of Boylesports, obviously, thanks very much for their enhancements, in particular on the Monday show. And I mentioned as well, just for Jack Canton and Syndicates Racing. I mean, if you are looking for a syndicate to that's proven, David, to get you to those big days, the big festivals, your Dublin racing festivals, your Cheltenhams. As you can see, those trainers up on screen, Willie Mullins, Gordon Elliott, Henry the Bromhead, to name just a few. It's a really good way to get involved in racehorse ownership. And Jack has kindly extended the offer for the remainder of the National Hunt season, €50 off your first share. And all you have to do is type in Champ all caps into the checkout once you pick your horse. And David said he did recommend this Cabaret Princess. Maybe we should ask him for a share before it's all gone.
Yeah, I think we should. We should be getting in there, all three of us, for one little share and get us to the races. And despite Ronan being away skiing, I think with modern technology, we should be able to hopefully zoom him into Gowran Park from the high skis and the snow and all the rest. We'll do our very best. We will leave no stone unturned, Barry, in getting Mr. Groome in.
It's not the snow that would worry me there. It's the copious amount of Jägermeister that might be taken on at that point. So it'll probably make more sense than usual, actually, mind you.
Well, the way I look at it is, when you're sober, you can give 20-1 winners. With a few Jägermeisters, you could give 50-1 winners. So we'll take our chance, Mr. Groome, if we can get you in. Yes, so that is the first two races out of the way. Then we're going to look ahead now to going to move on, because we've got plenty of racing action to come. And the next of the races we're going to look forward to this weekend is quite an intriguing race. It's race 3, as you can see in your 5-cast selections this week. It is, of course, the 3 miles Veterans Handicap Chase, a Class 2, 3 o'clock at Sandown. These races always intrigue me because you've got some great characters in there and horses that have given their owners such great service over the last number of years. I suppose, Ronan, I'll come to you first, give you first dibs on this one.
Yeah, this is a great race. Like probably the betting race of the weekend, David. To be honest, you got like 15 horses. Like they're all obviously exposed chasers, but loads of them are in good form because they've been racing against each other in the series like for the last whatever year or so. It doesn't go along. So, and it's 13-2 the field, so you can't really argue with that if you're a punter. It's a really good puzzle to try and kick on with. Obviously, Good Boy Bobby coming in here on a hat trick, and of course, distance winner sets the standard. Thought he was, pricing up fair enough, and I was kind of looking for something to take him on with it. And my shortlist was Lord de Mays Neil, Mill Green, and Ramsay's Atele. And through process of elimination, I'll just go briefly through them. I just thought Lord de Mays Neil was really interesting. I thought what he did over 2.5 miles was really promising at Cheltenham behind Sapage, and was surely an improver up and trip. But just worried about him going this way. I think he needs to go the other way. I think he needs to go left-handed. So interesting to hear what Gavin Sheehan says about him. Mill Green, I'm just worried about his jumping in a big field, but he is like for a 12-year-old, he actually only has 3 or 4 starts over fences. So in a field of thoroughly exposed horses, he was kind of sticks out as sore thumb as one who could improve, but I'd just be worried about him in a big field like this. He's done most of his work over hurdles. So that just leaves me with Ramsay's Datsalrightgino, who ran a huge race here last season. He's actually come back 4 pounds lower. Now, when he came into this race last season, he was coming in off a win, so that is obviously a factor, but I'm sure David Pipe has probably just worked back from this race and said, right, let's just put all our eggs into this basket. It's 51 grand to the winner here. He's 4 pounds lower, so if you ran him elsewhere, you run the risk of affecting his mark. And maybe they've looked at his record. He's gone well fresh a couple of times before, so they've said, right, let's just take a chance that we can get him here in good shape, and he'll be ready to run for his life. He's a 12-year-old now, but he doesn't have a huge amount of miles on the clock. I remember back in from our Grand National one time when he was too young, but he was that type of chaser. He's always going to be this sort of 3 mile, kind of stays well, handles soft ground, and he's had a wind up as well. So I just think there's enough reasons there to take a chance on him in a wide open race that he could run at least as well as last season, and that could definitely get him on the premises again. Yes,
I thought Thomas Darby, who jumped with plenty of promise last time, I thought he was a very interesting runner for Ollie Murphy and Harry Skelton on board. I quite like his chances. He's currently around 15-2. Barry, what do you make of it?
Well, you're stealing the thunder there, Dave, because I have to say he is the one I've come down on. I had a short list of 3, to be honest with you, and they all ran in that race last time out there at Warwick, where Thomas Darby came out and obviously won the race. And he's a really interesting runner. Obviously, he's an 11-year-old. As Ronan mentioned, it's 11-2 the field here. Goodbye Bobby's on the hat trick. He's got up a little bit in the weights. Thomas Darby, I think there might just be a little bit more upside over fences with him. I mean, he's only had 6 starts over fences. I like this performance. He jumped a lot better back over fences where he beats Millgreen and, of course, Iwright, who was in the race back in 3rd. He's a very interesting claimer on board as well. I think that's a young man that you're going to be hearing a lot more about is Iwright's rider, Dylan Johnson. He's full value now for the £7. So that's probably a plus in his corner. Millgreen is ultra consistent. And if you're looking at the best piece of recent form over smaller obstacles, over hurdles, he was 3rd at Cheltenham in the Pretemps, and he was 3rd at Aintree as well. He's very, very consistent. And as Rona mentioned, Millgreen has only had the 4 starts over fences himself. But the one I've come down on is Thomas Darby. Obviously, he was running a graded level last year. He's having just a 7 start over fences. I thought he jumped a lot better last time. He saw it out well. And I thought, in honest, David, I thought he was idling in front on that occasion. So the ground as well is worth noting because this could turn into a real slog. Thomas Darby has won on 2 occasions on soft ground and run well on soft ground on many occasions in his career. So he's the one I've come down on.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. I quite like his chances as well. Right, we've plenty more to come. We're going to head into our first ad break. And right after this first break, we're going to look ahead to our final 2 races, which is the handicap hurdle at Sandown, the 337. And, of course, the LAWLOR'S of NAAS, the novice hurdle, the grade 1 on Sunday. Gowran Park Racecourse, the premier racetrack in the southeast of Ireland, is located on the outskirts of Kilkenny City. Gowran is your #1 choice for corporate days out, stag and hen party events and an overall great local racing experience. Known as the race that stops the county, the famous Goffs Thyestes Chase 2024 takes place on Thursday the 25th of January.
In the finish of the Goffs Thyestes, invitation only, and Ruby Welch on the near side for Willie Mullins' 7th win of the race. Invitation only has beaten Alpinus Opus.
With packed crowds expected once again this January, you can book your early bird tickets online today. Visit GowranPark.ie online, click the link in the Champ.ie podcast video description, or scan the QR code on screen to purchase right now. Eddie and the team look forward to welcoming you all to Gowran Park Racecourse this winter.
McGree has justified favouritism, but sharp up there, out in front, we're ready for John McConnell and Alex Harvey.
Western victory, silver line, that'll be the finishing order.
Right, welcome back. We've looked at 3 of our 5 races. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and of course, more importantly, put down your 5 cast selections for this weekend. We've got the Thyestes, of course, coming up on the 25th of January. And of course, Champ.ie proudly brought to you in association with Gowran Park, Boylesports and Syndicates Racing. Right, let's move on, gentlemen. We're going to look ahead to Sandown's 337 on Saturday. Again, this is a very, very interesting race. Barry, I'm going to come to you first to get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I was just looking at this. I think the double is probably what you need to do if you're looking at shorties on Saturday at Sandown, and the favourite in this, I think, is going to take the absolute world of beating. We tipped it up on the show, David, a couple of weeks ago when it did win at Sandown. It's 2 from 2 at the track. Both wins were on heavy ground. It's, I think, 22 mils of rain is scheduled. So it's going to be really testing. Fingers crossed there's no interruptions and it does go ahead, because obviously they're inspecting as we're recording at 8 p.m. on Friday morning. But Spirit Danu, he's 5 wins from 7 over hurdles, jumps very well. Looked really well handicapped last time, and he's got up £10. The handicapper has put him up £10. I think he'll go in here. I think he's probably the bet of the day, certainly of the ones that are odds against anyway, at Sandown on Saturday. And I thought he'd take the world of beating for Gary Moore. It's worth noting as well, 22% strike rate. The stable have really hit form in the last couple of weeks, and obviously he loves winners at Sandown as well. And really, there's just nothing against this horse in my view. I don't really see much else that sticks out. It'll be interesting to see the Ronan find one.
Yeah, before I come to Ronan probably has one in here. I thought the Churchill led won very, very nicely over the Christmas. And this is probably a much stronger race, but I thought there was lots to like about the Churchill led. Ross Chapman on board that day, Rebecca Menzies runner, and in around the 4-1 chance. But Ronan, would you be with Barry on the favourites chance here, or have you picked and found something else at a bit of value?
I think it's soft enough for the race of its value, I suppose. David, and I have to agree. I think there's a chance he could go odds on. To be honest, I guess it all depends on Nichols' horse here. He starts first time out. Sans Brute. He's a recruit from France where he's won 5 times from 10 starts. He was actually running in the big 3 mile Grade 1 there behind the thing they fancy for the stairs hurdle, Thelem. He was actually well held there, but he's dropping back to 2 miles now. He'll definitely like the conditions. I'm not going to confess to him that I'm a huge know much anything about the French form, but he's obviously got a good record, and you obviously respect the connections, and you can see from his form that he likes soft ground and will stay well. Most of his form is over around 2-3 furlongs. So coming back down a trip is a slight worry, but I guess if you have heavy ground, that might be a bit of an equaliser. That all said, the vibes, I guess the market will tell you a lot closer to the race of what the vibe is about him. And in that view, if there was any kind of suggestion that he wasn't ready to start here, or there was just kind of maybe lacking a run, etc., on his first start in 210 days, I could see the Spirit Danube going off close to below even money, I suppose. I mean, like the race he won the last day looked a lot deeper than this. He beat a couple of 4-year-olds who, won well since Ponte de l'Est, and he was well worth a £10 rise there. And it's hard to see other than those two. I'd take your point on the Churchill lad. I'd say this is a bit better of a race now as well. I couldn't argue with Spirit Danube being that sort of price, to be honest.
Yeah, and I suppose, Barry, you made the point there. The double mightn't be a bad way to play once, hopefully, and fingers crossed, Sandown gets the green light on Saturday. But a really intriguing race. Could be a really, really nice double for punters to get into. Right, that's the opinion in that one. But the final race we're going to take a look at is, of course, this intriguing race on Sunday, the LAWLOR'S of NAAS. It is the novices hurdle. It's a Grade 1. Firefox, Il Alentique, Chapeau de Salil, and Tubber. Crow Park in here. Where do we start, Ronan Groome, to find a winner of this? So I suppose the market firstly tells us 7-4 in around the Firefox mark, then 11-4 for Il Antique and Il Atlantique, I should say, and Chapeau de Salil is 4-1. Again, is this Firefox's race, or is this a lot trickier than the market would suggest?
Well, I'll put it this way to you, Dave. My bet or my play on Firefox for the Ballymore, I'd be a lot more happier if he came through here unscathed and managed to get it done here. I think he'd look like a lot more solid going into the festival, because this does look really strong. Now we say that famous last words, and we'll get declarations tomorrow morning, and maybe a few of them will come out, and it mightn't look as strong as it is. But at the moment, if 4 of the top 5 or 5 of the top 6 in the betting there do actually go and take their chance, and there's no real reason why they shouldn't, I suppose, at this point, it will be a really good race. Look, Firefox, like, he's done it mostly over 2 miles so far. Obviously, a lot of it is in bumpers as well. And he did show a lot of pace the last day to go and beat Ballyburn. Obviously, that form has taken a bit of a boost since with what Ballyburn has done at Christmas. Hard not to be very impressed with him. And the vibes is that 2.5 miles, Firefox could be even better over that sort of trip. So obviously I can see why he's favourite. I'm a big fan of the horse. I just thought that the Il Atlantique is the one that's interesting here, and easy to see why he's in second best. Like the form of his race that he won down in Gowran has worked out really well. No time to wait. Gordon's horse was third there. He bolted up with Cork. And Tutor's Glory was back in 5th, and he's ran to a good solid main hurdle since, and he was, he's bet out the park on the day really. And these two are quite closely matched in bumpers, so it's a clash of the big stables here, and it will be interesting to see how it comes out. If I was to nominate one, this could be a race where you end up with the 8 runners, and there could be an each way option. I think it could be Henry de Bromhead on Tubber. I think this fella is going to be more home over the 2.5 miles here. Look, if you look at the Royal Bond, which is actually working out quite well, King of Kingsfield won well in the maiden hurdle of Christmas, and Farron Glory looked like he was ready to bolt up in the Tallworth. The winner, the Royal Bond there, was low until he came down at the second last. On Tubber, like, you could put a blanket over these when they turned for home, so they probably didn't go that fast at all. And on Tubber, like, he just got done for pace, I'd say. He could have fallen out there and not finished out his race when the other two went by him, but I like the way he stuck to his task. And as I say, I just think coming up to this 2.5 miles, he could be interesting. He could be more at home. He can settle a bit better and use more of his stamina. He was a real kind of hypey horse at one point, and obviously maybe had a little bit of a problem, but Connection seemed to think that mightn't have been the worst thing to happen to him in the world. So wouldn't be surprised if he ran well or outran his odds, I suppose. And just one more, just to quickly mention, just if Lecky Watson was declared, he's really interesting. I liked his run the last day in second behind Slade Still. He looks like a horse with loads of scope. Like, you wanted him to really pick up, and he kind of ducking in a few times at Navan, and just looked like a horse that's still a bit green. I'd say back over 3 miles, he'd be really, really interesting. Like, he stays well, and I just think there's a lot better to come from him. So if he ran well here, something like Albert Bartlett might be interesting for him. But I suppose I'll go with on Tubber each way, and we'll see how the declarations come out.
Barry, before I come to you on your thoughts on this big race on Sunday, I was asked during the week, Ronan, if I got a chance on the first show of the new year on Champ.ie to ask you, there was kind of, there's this discussion going on. You've mentioned the big stables on Sunday in this race. There's a lot of talk about the Trainers' Championship and how important the Grade 1 victories are going to be. As it stands, we've just turned the corner in 2023. We're into the straight in 2024. Gordon Elliott, Willie Mullins, that battle will continue. Will it go down to the wire this year in Punchestown, or will it be a similar scenario like other years? Gordon starts off well, goes a couple of 100,000 in front, and then Willie brings out the big guns and goes again. Is that similar what's going to happen this year, or could it be slightly different?
I think you have to have. I haven't seen any betting, but I'd be absolutely I'd be flabbergasted if Willie Mullins wasn't significantly odds on. I don't know if you've seen betting, David, and you can confirm that, but I think if you're backing Gordon Elliott or you're in his camp, you'd want him to be. Would you want him to be 500,000 clear going into Punchestown, something like that? I just think Mullins is so strong. The bandwagon is in full pelt by the time you get to Punchestown. Like, if you look back to Punchestown last season, Gordon didn't have a winner. Like crazy stuff, and like he had winners at Aintree and a couple at Cheltenham as well, but he actually did not have a winner, which is mad to think. So I think the festivals is where it'll be won and lost, whether like grade ones like this, a novice 2 mile, or 2.5 mile novice hurdle, which is grade one, I don't think will be hugely significant. It's the big festivals, the clutch of grade ones and the big handicaps which make the difference. So you're looking at the Dublin Racing Festival, Fairy House, basically, and again going into Punchestown. Look, Gordon will be delighted with what he's done so far. He keeps saying it's a transitional period for him, and he's got the owners now and he's producing for them, which is key. When you produce for the owners, that means they maybe get a bit more excited, etc. These people with all the money, and they might go and buy more horses. So I'm talking about the likes of Caldwell, Rob Core, Jigginstown, who are really seeing a revival as well. So I think maybe next year could be the year that Gordon really has a crack at it, but I'd say he'll be delighted with how things go so far. But if he's not 400, 500,000 clear going to Punchestown, I think he probably concede defeat there as it is.
Yeah, right. Let's go back then to you, Barry, for your thoughts on the big one on Sunday, the Lawlor'S of Naas. What about this Crow Park, Barry? Gordon Elliott's runner at Jigginstown are really beginning to, fire some big runners back in the mix again for some of the big races. Would you give this Crow Park any squeak at all in this contest on Sunday, or has his form up to now not been strong enough? But for me, looks a real nice horse. What's your thoughts?
I think he'll be the captain of the World Hunt Union in about 3 or 4 years' time. He's the most gorgeous looking horse, David. I don't think he's the class for this. I think it was a good piece of placing by Gordon to get a win at graded level over hurdles with Croke Park. It just looked a good piece of placing at Navan. This is a whole different ball game against the likes of, we're mentioning Willie Mullins, and that clip of the back car where he was loading up the trophies after the Dublin Racing Festival last year mightn't be as he mightn't take as much home this year at the Dublin Racing Festival, but at the same time, David, he could absolutely clean up again. And this conversation could be well and truly over before we even get into March. So I think Ronan's right. He needs to be well up, and I think he's a great chance in this particular race with Ile Atlantique. I think everything about Ile Atlantique, I love this performance at Gowran. Obviously, shades of an Ergamine, coming 20 plus lengths clear of the second on really testing ground at Gowran on his first start and only start over hurdles. Speaking to Paddy before Christmas, he likes this horse a lot. They like him down there. He's the one thing he mentioned about Ile Atlantique, obviously there was only 3 parts of a length between himself and Firefox last year in that bumper at Fairyhouse. Firefox came out on top. He's since come out and won at Fairyhouse. I liked his first start in a bumper, Ile Atlantique. I think he showed plenty. He that cruising speed he has, he stays well. And that was, I think, the key to Ile Atlantique, and Paddy made reference to it. He felt as though he didn't just quite let himself down on the ground at Fairyhouse on a little bit of nicer ground. And I just think here, the ground is heavy currently. There's no rain, barely any rain forecast between now and Sunday. But it's heavy ground now, and I just think there'll be enough dig in the ground to give the advantage to Ile Atlantique in a race like this. I think his cruising speed, his pace, he's stepping up in trip as well to 2 mile 4 furlong, as is Firefox. But I think the ground and the trip is probably going to suit Ile Atlantique more than Firefox, who I think had his own way of things against Ballyburn. By the way, there won't be too many, I wouldn't say there'll be any horse in that 2 mile division in Ireland this side of the water to finish ahead of Ballyburn the next time they meet, because he was so impressive. So that form looks good, but at the same time, I thought Firefox had his own way. Chapeau de Salil is interesting. You're talking about trainers' championships. Could Willie have the 1-2 in the race? I thought he was good down in County Tipperary on his first start over hurdles. He's a horse that they taught a lot of in bumpers last year. And once again, on the Christmas show, Patrick did make reference to how much he's grown up and how well he looks now and how he's training. Everything is different about him this year towards the second half of the season last year. So it could easily be a 1-2 for Willie. I'm with Ile Atlantique. I think he's the best horse in the race.
Yeah, it's going to be a cracker. It really is going to be a cracking race. And again, like so many of the races, we head into the business time of the year. Lots of bubbles will be burst in that big race on Sunday in Naas at 2 o'clock. Right, it's now time for us. Looking forward to hearing Gavin Sheehan and telling us all about, the great performance and what it was like to win on Hewick, and looking ahead to some of his big rides that he has coming up this weekend.
So delighted to be joined by Gavin Sheehan on the Champ.ie podcast once again. Gavin, looking well. It's been a fantastic season so far. 61 winners, and dressed like that, you look like you're going to give us a bar of the boys of Fairhill.
Yeah, look, it's been brilliant. Brilliant month last month, obviously. But things are going well. Can't complain on this side, and hopefully it'll continue. Absolutely,
and I suppose looking at the list of wins this year, King George obviously on Hewick, Hennessy with Datsalrightgino, and a December Gold Cup as well with Fugitif. It's been, certainly on the Saturdays, it's been a big season so far.
Yeah, look, it's brilliant, and I suppose them 2 big winners that you mentioned there, Datsalrightgino and Fugitif, kind of they were the ones that helped me get the ride on Hewick.
And Hewick, that's something I wanted to ask you. How did that all come about? When did you know you were going to be riding Hewick in the King George?
I suppose, what was it? Probably about 5-6 days beforehand. My agent was in touch with the Shark, and he spoke to me about it and said that Shark was looking for me. So I obviously grabbed the opportunity with both hands. And Boxing Day is kind of one of those where you can go to a smaller meeting and try to pick up a couple of winners, but there was nothing really obvious for me. And when the Shark gave that call, I rang him and had a chat with him, and after speaking to him on the phone, I thought we were gonna win.
Absolutely. We will come on to Hewick in just a moment, because I suppose for listeners, Gavin, that I suppose are new to the show and maybe didn't hear your background originally. Obviously, you come from County Cork. You were mentioned Dunmanway. I suppose, how did it all start for Gavin Sheehan becoming a jockey?
Look, it's a kind of funny story. I lived in the town back home. We didn't have any land, anything, but it was kind of watching westerns. And I kind of wanted to be a cowboy. I suppose that's kind of how I kind of started to want to be involved with four-legged animals, you know, horses, and asked Santa Claus for a rocking horse. Thought we might start off there, and my mother in the background there. She obviously sent the letter away and came back and driving down the road after getting a letter from Santa, and yeah, he said that the cardboard box is too big to bring down the chimney, and when we went down the road, we went down with the whole family, and it was a nice surprise to see a pony tacked up, and my love kind of grew from there with ponies and everything else. And I was lucky enough then, I suppose, to do the pony racing. But firstly, I'd done donkey derby, so donkey derby's kind of started me off into the pony racing circuit, and I suppose, and I had 3 great years pony racing and a lot of success, and thought I just wanted to do a bit of jumping then. So I went up to Michael Harrigan after spending a bit of time with Jerry Cully. Went up to Michael Harrigan, got my amateur license out with him, and yeah, it's kind of all took off from there, really.
Certainly is a good school, and I'm guessing with the top on you that you're a keen Jay supporter as well.
Yeah, look, I love my hurling. I still there's not too many lads around Lambourne here where I'm living at the moment that are quite keen to have a puck around, but I still go down with the dog and puck the ball about for her.
Might come on to the hurling career in just a moment, but let's get into it with Hewick, because you mentioned you spoke to the Shark. I suppose tactics were discussed by many previews and many, I suppose, many previews building up to the King George. There looked to be plenty of pace on. Obviously, Datsalrightgino and Fugitif have come from behind in big races. You have that experience in big races. Was it the plan to drop them in and maybe try something a little bit different?
No. It was one of those where everybody was kind of going to line up. I thought Brave Man's Game and Shiskin were the two that probably weren't going to get involved in the early scrummage, I suppose. But just before I went out and gave the saddle to Shark, I said to him that you know, that it was Frodon, I think was going to be the main one, and the real whacker. I thought it was just the two of them. I couldn't imagine that Allaho was going to get involved and just take a toe and see what happens in front of him and then kind of come through. But I said we just line up. I said we go forward, and then after jumping 3-4, we'll just slot into wherever rhythm we can kind of get in. But jumped them off up over the first 3 fences, and then I found myself on the outside of Shiskin and Allaho, who both jumped left, and just found the pace all too strong, to be honest with you, and just kind of finding myself further back than I wanted to be. I wanted to be kind of in amongst them and kind of in contention, but I was finding myself getting further and further back, and it wasn't the tactics that I was going for, but they were the tactics that worked in the end.
And obviously, you mentioned you had to adjust. Then, at what point in the race did you believe you could actually win it?
Do you know something? The only point where I thought I could win it was probably on when I bypassed Nico on the ground. I just looked up and caught the two horses in front of me, Allaho and Brave Man's Game, and I thought they're stopping. And I was still full of running, but I wasn't going anywhere quick. But to be fair, when I went past him, I ended up taking off the back of the last, and he's won comfortably in the end. But I to be honest with you, halfway down the back, I just thought, oh look, we'll do a bit of nicking here for a bit of prize money. I thought if I could get forward, it'd be a massive run, because I wasn't jumping brilliantly. He was A to B and nothing fantastic. And look, the further I was going, the better I was going up the running from 3 out. But yeah, I suppose it was just one of those where keep going and keep trying my best, I suppose, on him. And then the race kind of developed that halfway down the back, they ended up taking each other on. I couldn't go to gallop, so I just had to ride my own horse and go the pace that I could go. But yeah, look, it's played out into my strengths, because it was about stamina in the end, and my lad showed that he had plenty of that.
What did you like most about him?
Right there. I suppose his attitude. That was the main thing that I liked. He just had that will kind of to keep plugging on, and even though he found the pace strong enough that he still stayed in contention, he still got it from A to B nicely, and he just got to love that heart that he had going down to the last. That, you know, from most horses were probably, you know, traveling a bit sweeter and things, you know, and do it easier, and then they find. But Mile has been off the bridle for you know, over a circuit, I suppose, to go, and you've got to have a lot of heart in you to come through and, you know, win like he did.
Do you believe he can win a Gold Cup or a Grand National?
I think he could. You know, it takes a bit of jumping around the national fences, and, you know, he does. He is a little bit straight backed, but the way the fences are now, they're not as big as what they used to be. So I could see him running a massive race inside the Grand National and stamina coming through. Then he's got to have a chance. He fits the profile for it, really, and definitely with the Gold Cup, if the ground comes up on the better side, then he's got to have a chance, because it's 2 furlongs longer, and a stiff uphill finish like that, I think, is going to play to his strengths. And he was running a massive race in it last year, to be fair, until he came down at the second last. But you got to think, like, a big strong gallop like that, if they're, you know, if they win the gallop they did last year, then, you know, he's got to be in with a chance. But he's not your obvious horse, but he's a very likeable horse, and a horse that's just got that will to win. And if it turns into, you know, stamina, then he's got to have his chance.
Be super to see Gavin Sheehan in the Point Depot. Let's see how it all plays out this year. The Fugitif obviously got his big day and landed the December Gold Cup. Talk us through that performance, Gavin. Another hold-up masterclass by yourself.
Yeah, that kind of went that didn't go to plan. He was keen with me in the Paddy Power, so I it's a funny old start. Sometimes at Cheltenham you end up having 10 abreast, lining up to all make the running, and then there's only 1 or 2 that actually want to go on. But I was 3rd or 4th with him, and he was a bit keen, travel a bit too well. But I knew he'd come on from the run, so I was really looking forward to him going into the December Gold Cup. But plan was to take our time a little bit more, probably like 6th or 7th kind of thing. But I found myself out the back, and probably not. He never really picked up the bridle. His jumping was brilliant. He's about 18 hands, and, you know, he does operate very well. But it was kind of one of those where you're going up the hill at Cheltenham, down the back, and I was just looking at the ones in front of me, thinking, I'm way too far back. Jumped the 4th last, and there was a faller, so we had to swerve that. Gave him a kick in the belly going down the hill to get him rolling again. But I felt like I was going well, but I thought it was a long ways off them. And then I suppose it wasn't until going into the second last that I thought, oh, I've got a chance here. And, you know, he's gone down to the last, and he's winged that. And I thought I was going to wing quite comfortably. But he was getting to the other horse. The other one did pick up, to be fair. But I felt my lad was just kind of hanging fire a small bit as well. But look, he's got the right result in the head bob. But it could have been a disaster, and everybody abusing me after because I was too far back, but it worked out in my favour.
He's raised £6 by the British handicapper up to 157. He has a Ryanair chase entry. Do you think that rating puts him in the picture?
I think it does. You know, but he likes Cheltenham. He's obviously finished second there last year in the 2.5 mile there last year. The play, that's the one. You know, if it came up soft heavy for him, then I think that definitely puts him in the picture, because he's a big strapping horse, and, you know, he's one that's always there in the shake-up.
You've struck up a particularly really good partnership with Jamie Snowden over the past couple of seasons. That's developed.
Yeah. You know, it was great that I got to call up Jamie. Only had about 45 horses or something like that, 40 horses, and he's going from strength to strength. And it's I suppose in the last year or two, he's got better horses, and hopefully he'll continue to get better horses. But Jamie's lovely to ride for. Very straightforward, and, you know, it's kind of, each time I go out there, I know exactly what I'm doing, because it's just go forward and you know, keep pressing in a sense. He's easy enough to ride for in that sense. But, you know, when you got better horses, and he's definitely getting better horses, then it makes it all the better.
And that's all right, Gino. Speaking about horses going up in the handicap, speaking about obviously Jamie Snowden, that's all right, Gino is up to rating 159 after his Newbury performance. He remains unexposed over 3 miles as well at the top, doesn't he?
He does, definitely. You know, I've always found with this horse, and a bit like Fugitif and Datsalrightgino, I've done a lot of homework on them and the times and time figures and all of that, and their best furlongs were the last 3-4 furlongs. 2 of them had been running over 2 miles. When they stepped up to 2.5 miles, they were both better. But I just felt with Datsalrightgino, he was losing his races in the first mile, and always flying home, but could never get him going for the first mile and to be sharp enough and quick enough. But he does finish strong, and I think 3 miles is just his kind of cup of tea. But you know, that was obviously a brilliant day we had with him, and he won quite comfortably, and obviously a very good Coral Gold Cup as well, you know. But his last couple of furlongs were his best, and hopefully there's a bit more to come as well.
Well, he has an entry in the Gold Cup. Where might we see him next?
To be honest with you, I'm not too sure where he's going to go. I'd love to see this horse run in the Grand National. I spoke to the owners, Ewan J and Glenn Davison. They're both thinking the Grand National might be a bit much, but they're very humble and very nice people. But yeah, they almost think it's a little bit much for him. But I think he fits the profile perfectly for a Grand National. Jumps and stays, and we haven't seen the best of him yet either, because I think he could improve again. And I'd love to see him in the Grand National. That's I'd be working back from there really. Not sure where he's going to go, because he is ground dependent. The quicker the ground, the better for him. He's a big horse, and he looks like a horse that wants soft or heavy ground, but he doesn't. He wants good ground, and I think that's why, you know, the Coral Gold Cup worked out so well for him. Yeah, obviously that they went a good strong gallop, and I was able to creep away into the race, but he is ground dependent, and that's where we see the best of him.
Colonel Harry, obviously for the same connections. How does he compare to Datsalrightgino in his early days?
Much more straightforward. Colonel Harry's a heavy ground horse. You know, he was obviously second King Henry VIII, but probably just lacked a bit of experience up over the fences. And he knuckled on landing after jumping the first, and he travelled great going down to the first, but came out of it just a little bit behind the bridle. I was always too far back, and you're trying to make ground around there, which was hard to do, you know. And I think the experience told, but actually I had to sit in him this morning and school him over fences, and he was fairly rapid up over the fences. He's probably a bit more speedy than Datsalrightgino, and he feels like he's got plenty of class as well. But he's an exciting horse for the future.
Could it be one for handicaps in the spring, or would you see him going down the graded route?
I can't see why we don't go down the graded route. You know, I think on soft heavy ground is where he excels, and you know, I think he could improve again for going up to 2.5 mile, but 2 miles at the moment is grand for him on soft heavy ground around a stiff track, and I think we did lack that experience the last day. The winner probably ran in 2 handicaps over fences, but he's gone up another 11 pounds, and the winner went up 17 pounds, which was a bit mad, to be honest with you. Albeit that the winner had ran in 2 handicaps, and he's still gone up that much. They worked it back, I suppose, off JPR1, but it's horses for courses a little bit, I think, as well. And Gary Moore does very well around there, and our lads obviously won around there and finished 4th in the Tolworth.
Obviously, momentum's a great thing in sport, and we roll on to this weekend. Obviously, you wear it well. It was so impressive at Cheltenham last year, winning, making all in the Mayor's Novice. She's entered up this weekend. How is she?
Yeah, she's good. She's good. I'd nearly put a line through the last day. I don't think she was herself, and probably just I don't know, going out onto the track, getting the feel off her on the way down to the start. Just probably wasn't herself. I schooled her this morning. She seemed in good form. She's bucking and rearing and doing everything to try and get me off this morning. So that's back to herself. And you know, I still think that there's probably more to come from her. but the form figures from the last day, they probably all back up that she's ran her race. But look, she's an exciting mare. She's run over 3.5. Sandown, I think there's only 5 runners. Really looking forward to her, and she's a classy mare on her day, and let's hopefully turns up in the right frame of mind.
She's obviously stepping up in trip once again. What do you think are her biggest strengths?
It's kind of one of those biggest strengths is I think she stays and she jumps, and she's got that little bit of class, but she is that little bit quirky, and we're finding that out a little bit more now that we're probably dipping our toe further. But yeah, look, she looks like the obvious one in that race, and I think we just keep it straightforward. We pop out and go a nice gallop. I think she stayed 3 miles, but there's probably no need to do that yet. She's won around there over 2.5. I think it was the J. Seymour that she won around there last year over 2-3. I think we just keep it simple and get her into nice rhythm around there. She doesn't mind the heavy ground. I think we just draw a line through the last end. Her form from Weatherby, and that was a cracking run from her, having her first run back. She has obviously ran a couple times since and won the last day around Ascot.
Obviously, if all goes to plan at the weekend, do you think she's a big player at this stage for the mare's feature at the Festival of March?
I think she is. I think we'll see a better horse again, I suppose, in March. And we're probably working back from March really, but that's over a bit further as well with 2-4 than what she won last year. But I think that all plays to her strengths. I think she'll only come into herself, I suppose, around March time, hopefully.
Couple of rides tomorrow, and obviously you have Lord of Naas in the Veterans Handicap on Saturday. He had a good run the last day. You have a nice book of rides for the weekend.
Yeah, hopefully. The nice ones tomorrow. Bella's Bridge, she runs in the bumper there tomorrow. She's probably my best chance. And Lord of Naas, he ran a cracking race the last day. It was only 2.5 mile the last day, and he's obviously won the Grand National Trip, was it, which was the 3 mile 4 around Haydock, and popped out, made all, and he's a proper stayer, and just hoping that Sandown all his strengths will come out, and that race the last day he travelled great, jumped great, and he done a lot right. He was beat by probably a speedier horse. Really looking forward to him, and hopefully we'll see the best of him now on Saturday.
Super, Gavin. Finally, before we do wrap up, obviously wish you well this weekend and for the remainder of the season. It was great talking to you once again on the show. For Champ.ie followers listening, is there any younger horses in particular, or any horses maybe that we haven't mentioned that you like the look of and might be worth following?
Probably not. Jamie's a lot of his guns are probably out at the moment. There'll be a horse later on that I've schooled. He'll probably be out around between Cheltenham and Aintree. I'd say he'll be out around that time. A horse called Reach for the Moon. He's a nice horse, and he was a highly rated horse in the flat, and hopefully when he come into a bit better ground and things like that he'll be a nice prospect.
Gavin, brilliant talking to you, and hopefully we'll see you in the Point Depot in the 4th week in March.
Yeah, touch wood. I look forward to it.
Yes, well, very insightful there, and great interview, Barry, with Gavin Sheehan, and you can clearly see he's still buzzing from that St. Stephen's Day victory on Hewick, and it's really hard to blame him.
Yeah, I wasn't sure you'd be would be full of compliments for Gavin Sheehan, since the fact that he was sitting there in a Cork Ireland top. But then again, your mother was from Cork, so
yeah, mother is from Cork, so we have to. Well, she's kind of on the Limerick Cork border, but we always push her over into the Cork side anyway. That is for sure. We've always told her that she's more of a Cork woman than anything else. But yeah, it's great. It really is, and it certainly is going really, really well. And we wish Gavin Sheehan the very best of luck for the coming months leading into Cheltenham. Right, we've got to look ahead, of course. Once again, a big congratulations to Paddy Pacer. You're the lucky winner of the fantastic prize, which is an overnight stay in Langton's Hotel in Kilkenny and tickets and transport out to the races, of course, on Thyestes Day on the 25th of January. Just a couple of weeks away. It won't be long coming in. And Eddie and the team, of course, will be delighted to help you out in getting your tickets for the big day. And, of course, Barry and myself will be down there on the day. We'll be bringing you plenty of insight into the card on the day at Gowran Park. So really looking forward to that. Yes, looking forward to that. And we might even catch up with the man who bought the £800 horse down in his local track, of course. The Shark Henlon might be there as well. Right, lads, we're moving on nicely, rolling along very, very well in the show this week. And it's now time to come to the part of the show where I'm sure listeners over the last number of weeks will be absolutely buzzing from, because if they've listened to you guys, well, the pockets will be full. We're going to firstly come before we get to nap bets of the weekend. Three best bets or the best bets, Barry, for you firstly for this weekend?
Well, I was blamed last week for putting up 4 and Ronan only got 3. So this week I'm going to put up 2. Because to be honest, David, I actually didn't see too much that I was really, really keen on this weekend. And I've limited this just to 2 and a nap. So we'll keep the nap for a moment. But I thought Carbon King, as we've mentioned earlier on, I thought on its hurdles form, it could be very well treated over fences. This Carbon King for the Evan Williams stable. It runs in the 150 at Sandown. I have to say I liked this performance last time up. Lightly raced over fences, as mentioned, £5 lower over fences than its hurdles mark. Already explains, the form of its hurdles form when it was trained by Declan Queenie in Ireland. That looks really, really strong. And I think as well, just to mention, he did jump right at Fosslas, and Fosslas obviously going left-handed. So he did. I thought he jumped quite a bit out to his right. He's going the way around this time. He stays, he jumps. I think Sandown looks tailor-made for him. So Carbon King, I thought 11-2 look good value. And I'm feeling in a forgiving mood as well, because 3 weeks ago we put up a horse called Astronomic View, and it runs again. It finished second. It was just touched off last time out over 2 miles and 7 furlongs. It was doing its best work at the finish. Interestingly, though, they're stepping it back in trip to 2 mile and 5 furlongs at Wincanton. It looks a winnable race. There's only 7. It's a small field. It's at 3:15 at Wincanton. It's chalked up at 5-1. I thought it could outrun those odds for the Sue Garner team, Lucy Garner on board. And I just don't think it might have just ran into one last time. That's my thought process. And I think it's been second on its last 2 starts. I think at Wincanton on Saturday at 3:15, it could be its time to shine. So 5-1, Astronomic View and Carbon King. They're my better bets of the weekend.
Yeah, and I've actually, in a few minutes, I would have been putting that Astronomic View up as my nap pick of the weekend. So a good spot. I spotted the same as you did last time out. And as you said, this looks a real winnable contest. Right, Ronan, your best bets this weekend?
I'll go back Georgia Saint wherever he goes, David. So if he goes to Sandown, which I think is actually the better race for him, we could just see him really devouring the hill up Sandown on heavy ground. But maybe Sandown gets called off, and if not, then he goes to Wincanton for the 240 there. So I'll back him probably for either one of those races, pending a price obviously at Wincanton. But he's around the 5-1 mark for the Sandown race, which I thought looked pretty fair. Then on Sunday at Naas, looking forward to seeing Mr. Policeman, as I'm sure Basil is in the 1 o'clock there, the novice chase. Willie usually sends his best novice there, as has been pointed out by a few people on Twitter this week. But the race that's probably a bit more of a betting contest is the 130 here, the 2 mile handicap chase. I'm quite interested in Gavin Cromwell's horse here. Midnight it is, if he does indeed get declared. I think the step back to 2 miles is what he wants, and he handles heavy ground well. He's ran okay the last twice, but if you go back to his third one, he was a good winner of a 2 mile handicap chase. So just looking forward to it. I think that I was just going through the runners in the race that are there, and a lot of them just probably don't want the ground as heavy as it's going to be at Naas. In particular, it's quite interesting Barry Connell's too, especially had Grant at the tie, but I just think he needs a decent surface. So looking forward to seeing where he ends up eventually, but I just think the heavy ground might catch a horse that came out here and may not even be declared either. They're probably my 2. As Barry said, it's probably a tricky enough weekend, but definitely George is saying wherever he goes, I'll be interested in him.
Right, let's move on. We're going to take our final ad break, and we'll be back then to give you our nap pick selections for this weekend's racing. Gowran Park Racecourse, the premier racetrack in the southeast of Ireland, is located on the outskirts of Kilkenny City. Gowran is your number one choice for corporate days out, stag and hen party events, and an overall great local racing experience. Known as the race that stops the county, the famous Goffs Thyestes Chase 2024 takes place on Thursday the 25th of January.
In the finish of the Goffs Thyestes, invitation only, and Ruby Walsh on the near side for Willie Mullins' 7th win of the race. Invitation only has beaten Outfitters Open.
With packed crowds expected once again this January, you can book your early bird tickets online today. Visit GowranPark.ie online, click the link in the Champ.ie podcast video description, or scan the QR code on screen to purchase right now. Eddie and the team look forward to welcoming you all to Gowran Park Racecourse this winter.
Grangy and Patrick Mullins.
McGree had justified favouritism, but sharp up there, Gavin front, was ready for John McConnell and Alex Harvey.
Western victory, silver last. That'll be the finishing order.
Yes, welcome back, and well, we're looking forward to another cracking weekend of racing action, and fingers crossed we get the green light at Sandown. Right, gentlemen, it comes to that time where we've nap selections, and we'll go to the man who's just recently got engaged, of course, Mr. Ronan Groome, and a big congratulations to you and your new fiance as well. Wish you the very best of luck for the future, and we've only one thing to say here: make sure the wedding doesn't clash with any of the Champ.ie series next year. So we'll give you a window to have the wedding. But Ronan, what's your nap for the weekend?
Yeah, these naps have become more important now when you have something that big to pay for in the pipeline, I suppose. But before I give you a nap, just a quick shout just for the Sussex National at 2:47 Plumpton on Sunday. I thought the Tizard horse here was quite interesting. Rose of Arcadia. She ran a big race in behind Pink Legend the last day, who would be like 17 pounds higher than her, and was only giving her £4, and she was only beaten 2 lengths in the end. So it was a big run. She stayed on well there. The Tizzards have a good record in the Sussex National, actually. So just watch out for her if she's declared. Could be interesting. But I think I've mentioned them a couple of times already. So I'm going to go with George just saying to it, whatever race he goes for, either Wincanton or Sandown, I think he would be my nap of the weekend.
Yeah, very interesting nap there from Ronan. Barry, what do you like as your nap this weekend?
Going to nap Eel Atlantique. I've liked them for this particular race, David, for quite a while. And I thought Paddy was very, very positive on his chances in this particular race when we had him on the Christmas show. He's a 6-year-old. Look, he's plenty of experience in bumpers. I think the ground and the trip is going to be what's going to swing it in his favour on Sunday. Willie Mullins has obviously won the race 5 of the last 9 renewals. Obviously, Gordon has a decent recent record in the race, but Willie always sends a top novice to this as well. And I just think he can reverse that bumper form with Firefox from Fairy House on this type of ground. And I thought 15-8, Eel Atlantique, a little bit more conservative this week, David, but I think he'd take the world of beating in that LAWLOR'S of NAAS.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Astronomic View for me in that 3:15, I think is very interesting on Saturday. I think, as you've mentioned previously, it's a real winnable race. And I think it's a really, really good price in around 5-1. If you get that, I can't see him going off that on the day. Well, gentlemen, that brings us to the end of another Champ.ie podcast. Thanks to Barry and to Ronan for their contribution this week. And of course, don't forget, for you out there too, you still have a chance to subscribe to the show. They're your races for the 5-cast. Sandown's 150, 225 Sandown, 3 o'clock Sandown, the 3:37 Sandown, and the LAWLOR'S of NAAS Novices Hurdle. Don't forget to put in your 5-cast selections and, of course, subscribe to the show. And we were delighted to bring you another very entertaining show this weekend. And of course, once again, congratulations to Paddy Pacer. You're off to the Thyestes Chase on January 25th. And you've also won yourself that overnight stay in Langton's in Kilkenny. And of course, we'll be looking ahead to the Thyestes over the coming weeks with that race getting ever closer. Gentlemen, as always, it was a pleasure. And here's hoping to plenty of winners for the weekend. Thanks for listening and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And fingers crossed the green light goes for all of this weekend's racing. Until next time, it's bye-bye from the Champ.ie team.